The spring game is shaping up to be Chris Henry Jr.'s unofficial coming out party.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I'm Jay Stevens. During today's show, we will discuss what we need to see from the Buckeyes offensive line Saturday in the spring game, as well as Tavien St. Clair's challenge during the final spring practice. But first, as we are a couple days away from the conclusion of spring practice and Ohio State's spring game in 2026, I wanted to kind of look at some players and some groups and kind of dive deep into what we need to see from them, as well as what this could mean for certain players like Chris Henry Jr. He is in a group of 51 players that weren't on last year's roster that are on this year's roster. That's a makeup of transfers and incoming freshmen. And that's a group that's going to be trying to showcase their talent and let Ohio State fans know what they can expect from them. Of course, you want to expect big plays. If you're thinking about Earl Little Jr. or Terry Moore or any of the other guys that are transfers in, you want to say, yeah, I need to expect big plays from you. So I'm going to expect big plays from you because I want to be optimistic because this is a spring. This isn't the fall and fall camp where things get a little bit tighter. No, this is a time of kind of relaxation, but also a preview of what's to come in the fall. Well, that is what is going to describe Chris Henry Jr.'s debut in the Buckeye uniform on Saturday. It is just what's to come, just a preview, or it's literally just going to be the tip of the iceberg. And Henry Jr., 6'5", 195 pounds, has NFL DNA running through his veins. He's from California, the five-star kid. And when you have all that stuff attached to your name, it would be very easy for you to roll in and not go all out or not be focused like you need to be or not lift the weights and go harder than ever in the weight room. It would be very easy to just lean on the things people say about you or people that are attached to you. Nobody has gotten that feeling with Chris Henry Jr. You don't feel like he's leaning on his pops or he's leaning on his recruiting ranking. No, what you're finding, what you're seeing with him is that he is stepping up and he is going to be a receiver that the Buckeyes can rely on in the fall. And while a spring game and a practice can't be your official coming out party, but let me tell you, in a couple of days, it will be his unofficial coming out party. He's going to go out there in the shoe, and I firmly believe he's going to put on a show. I don't know if he's going to have 3 touchdowns, 4 touchdowns. I'm not trying to put a number on how many touchdowns he is going to have. But when we just have seen clips or when we have been able to watch practice, the things you see from him, there aren't things you see from a guy who is an incoming freshman who's supposed to be a senior in high school, but he enrolled early at Ohio State. No, he looks like a guy that's been playing college football for 2 or 3 years already. There's a physical nature about him. Yes, he is a slender kid. Some might say he looks like a toothpick. Okay, I ain't saying that. That's what somebody else might say. But if that's how you view him, as he might be a toothpick, he might be too skinny, he might be too small, he might not be mentally tough enough to play, I don't think the coaches have gotten that feeling from him. He also just lost his black stripe. So he's already proven during spring practice that he has what it takes to be a Buckeye. And so hats off to him for losing his black stripe during spring ball, but also hats off to him for having people that are generally pretty picky. I don't know, picky on players they believe in or picky with narratives that they lean into. People are believing in him. That's a great start. If you are Chris Henry Jr., you want people to believe in you, but also you got to just keep putting the work in. And that's the focus on Saturday. Put the work in on any route you're running, put the work in. Remember, it's a practice, so you're going to have to do some things that you don't normally do in front of a lot of people, but you got to do them because this is what is demanded of you. And Ryan Day, I'm going to keep going back to this, the Friday when Ryan Day talked to Chris Henry Jr. after Henry Jr. announced publicly live on Pat McAfee's show that he was going to stick with his original commitment to play football at Ohio State. Ryan Day got on that phone, heard Chris Henry Jr., heard the spiel, the build-up to him saying he's going to stay home, and Ryan Day said you're going to be on the field on the other side of JJ catching balls from Julian. And on the outside looking in, if you're not an Ohio State, a reporter or someone that covers a team, maybe you're not a fan, you may be hearing, hold on, homie ain't even got on campus yet, and you're already saying he's going to be a starter on day one. Yes. Well, Ryan Day said that back in December. He hasn't gone away from that. He is still standing on business that Chris Henry Jr., the expectation for him is that he is going to be a day one starter, and he's playing like it. He's playing like a guy that's going to be opposite JJ, catch a ball from Julian St in the fall. Why? Because his play is like a guy that's been in college for 2 or 3 years. I may be carrying that thought throughout the rest of the summer. And if you get tired of it, that's okay. We'll package it different ways. We'll make it look a little bit different. Kind of like on Christmas morning, we have packages and maybe we buy the same toy for two different people. I wrap a gift. My wife wraps another one. You may be thinking, man, my wife's gift is going to be a whole lot better. Why? Because it looks better. It is wrapped differently. It's cleaner. I can wrap some presents, y'all, but I'm not a guy that's going to be going to the mall and getting a part-time job wrapping presents for people at Christmas time. I'm not that kind of guy. I am not. But I am a guy that believes in what Chris Henry Jr. has done so far, not only to lose his black stripe, but to make everybody a believer. It doesn't matter who he's going up against in one-on-ones. If it's almost said Julian. Jermaine Matthews, wow, the J names. If it's Jermaine Matthews, cool, he can get by him. If it's David Sanchez, he could beat him too. I saw a rep where he was lined up across from Leroy Roker, who's a little bit of a bigger, more physical player, where you may think the physicality of Roker might overcome and might be a plague for Henry Jr. No, it's actually one where it's just testing him. And I think Ryan Day is going to continue to do that. Arthur Smith is going to continue to test and to push and to challenge a young receiver. This all goes back to Cortez Hankton and something that he believes in wholeheartedly with this group. And it's going to be something that we need to see from Henry Jr. on Saturday. I believe Cortez Hankton has only had one media availability session after a practice. And when he had it, he was talking about something he emphasizes with the guys in his room and his yak, the yards after catch. And it's kind of a breath of fresh air or an amazing to hear a coach discuss the details that are so large on a field, but for some reason they're not talked about as often as they need to. When you're emphasizing catching and carrying the football, you want to catch the football, which is one of your primary goals is to catch a football. Well, it is to catch a football. Yeah, you can run poor routes, but if you catch the ball, great. If the quarterback can get the ball to you, that's great. Well, catching and carrying the football, that's huge. But do you think everybody that's in there is going to pick up what he's putting down, especially if you're a new freshman? You may think one guy may not, but I haven't got the feeling of that at all from anybody in that room. And so if you're going to the spring game, congratulations to you. Hats off to you. I know we're a couple days away, but we are excited because the Buckeyes will be back on the shoe playing football, and football is Ohio State's sport. No matter if you're a player or if you are someone that's a fan, football is everything at Ohio State. We're going to continue to talk about basketball because I would love to see them go back to St. John Arena. I don't think it's going to happen, which is why I detailed it the way I did at the end of yesterday's show. Maybe it was yesterday's show where I kind of just discussed upgrading for the basketball arena is great. St. John Arena, I would gladly prefer for them to play there, but there are so many renovations that need to happen in that arena for it to be suitable for Ohio State standards. Well, for Ohio State to raise their standards because the current standards for basketball aren't the highest because they're playing at the shot. And I am not a fan of that arena at all. It is large. It's not a great venue for Ohio State basketball. And go out there and make sure that you make necessary adjustments that it makes you better. And that's Chris Henry Jr.'s job right now as he continues to adjust and take the necessary steps to be better this year than he was last year playing high school football. That's great. Take those steps, but continue to always strive to get better and make Saturdays your unofficial coming out party. Saturday won't be Tavien St. Clair's unofficial coming out party, but he is a player just like Chris Henry that is currently being challenged by the coaches to do some big things to close spring ball. What is he being challenged with? We'll dive into all that after the break. This is Locked on Buckeyes. This episode is brought to you by Indeed, sponsored jobs, workplace chaos, deadline stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to fill still sitting open when the pressure's on, and you need the right hire. This is a job for sponsored jobs. Indeed, sponsored jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for. Skills, experience, location. So you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, Companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. Thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen of the day and for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. Get Locked On Buckeyes ad-free with the Everydayer Club. Plus, get members-only Discord access and a whole lot more. You can join the fun at lockedonbuckeyes.supercast.com or tap the link in the show notes to learn more. Ohio State's been very, very fortunate to have a lot of great quarterbacks of late, from Will Howard to Julian Sayin to Stroud and Fields and Haskins and Barrett and Pryor and Miller, and the list goes on and on and on of all the great quarterbacks that have come through Ohio State. And I may have missed a guy in the history lesson we just had there with Ohio State quarterbacks. And if I did, I apologize. We'll do better and try to get that right the next time we talk about QB1s in recent memory at Ohio State. Well, Tavien St. Clair is striving to join the group of a Fields, of a Stroud, of a Haskins as some of the best quarterbacks in Ohio State history. Well, to do so, he has to, one, get on the field, which is not, he won't be a consistent starter until next year. But number two, and more importantly, right now, for where he is currently in his career, he must consistently step up when challenged every single day. Challenged in the weight room, challenged in the classroom, challenged by your peers, challenged during a game. He must step up and respond the correct way when his number is called. Speaking of being challenged, think about what's happening on Saturday. It is the spring game. The Buckeyes have 3 scholarship quarterbacks: Julian St, Tavien St. Clair, and Justin Martin. I believe Martin is under scholarship. Well, when you have those 3 guys, and you know Ryan Day has mentioned the format before, it is going to be a live thud session for a portion of it at the beginning to get some of the guys that are well-established starters a little bit of run, get their legs moving a little bit, get their feet wet. But then after that, they're off the field. In comes a new rule, which is weekend tackle. And I am absolutely here. I'm 100% here for playing real football during the spring game. 100%. I understand why some coaches want to go away from that motto, but it's a spring game. Let's have some fun. And that's what I think Tavien St. Clair is going to be striving to do on Saturday. It's a spring game. Let's just have some fun. And while he's doing that, he must make sure that he continues to be consistent, efficient, and the kind of quarterback Ohio State needs and that they can lean on. Here's the beautiful part for him. He is not QB1 on Saturday, nor will he be QB1 in the fall. If this is a scenario like 2014, where Ohio State needed their backup quarterback all year long because the starter went down, Braxton Miller goes down, steps up JT Barrett, and the next thing you know, the Buckeyes literally have a legend board right in front of their eyes when nobody thought that would happen. I'm not trying to speak this into existence and say what happened to Braxton Miller in the 2014 season is the same thing that's going to happen to Julian Sayin this year. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is when he sees a challenge, he must attack it. Over and over and over and over and over again, he must attack it every single time. And for St. Clair, it's kind of like Chris Henry Jr. St. Clair had a lot of Ohio State fans, especially those of you that live in the great state of Ohio. A lot of y'all believe in saying some pretty big and bold statements and proclamations. That's the word I was looking for about Tavien St. Clair, because he's an Ohio kid. He was talented, went to the Elite 11. There are a lot of things that happen at the high school level. You're like, man, he is the guy. I need him right now in this room so we can be the best we can be. Maybe there is a guy like that. If there isn't, and St. Clair has to figure out how to do some checkdowns and how to elude some tacklers and maybe use his legs to get a first down, whatever the case may be, he has to step up and get the job done. And I would say 100%. he did get the job done. I was a little bit surprised that some people have already anointed him a guy that's going to win the Heisman or do certain things down the road. I don't know what Tavien St. Clair is going to do. I have no idea. What I do know is this: when he plays on Saturday, because it could be a scenario where Julian Sand plays just a little bit at the beginning and he doesn't play anymore. Then you have St. Clair as a quarterback and Martin as a quarterback. Those are more reps, more opportunities for these players to separate themselves from one another. Maybe they're trying to separate themselves in points or another area, whatever the case may be. You got to separate yourself. I'm looking forward to Saturday, if you can't tell. I don't think it's a surprise at all, but from the everydayers that know, I'm looking forward to the spring game. We're going to watch some film after the spring game of the spring game. You'll talk about the film that we watched of the spring game right here on the show because I want to watch some film. 100%. One of my buddies is a big film junkie, and I like watching film. He takes a little bit different. He's a big high school sports fan. He still goes to the high school games, lives in the area, and so he's big there, but he watches the film. We're going to definitely watch the film here of the spring game and dissect and break down what we see, what should be a little bit different, but we won't put a lot of stock in what we see in the spring game. You can't. If you want to, you can try, but you shouldn't. This is just a snapshot, a quick flash, a quick push of a button on the camera. That's what this is. It's a stepping stone or a building block. I was trying to think of something different to say, but sometimes the words are a little bit clogged up and they don't flow as normal, as smoothly as we would like. We would love to see Tavien St. Clair have full command and control of the offense on Saturday, for him to be consistent and for him to firmly lean into the challenge, which is to continue the level of play that he's played at during spring practice. It's not rocket science. I'm going to keep saying this. Every player is going to be challenged, maybe individually by a coach or as a group, the group they're in. You're going to be challenged. How do you respond? How do you look out there and tackle the task right in front of you? If you handle it the right way, you'll like the result. More often than not, you'll like the result because of where you are. If you don't go about it the right way, it could be bad news bears. I'm looking forward to seeing if Tavien St. Clair is locked up and linked with Brock Boyd on Saturday. And let's say those two connect for 3 touchdowns and we're trying to hype up Chris Henry Jr. and his unofficial coming out party because it's during a practice, not during the season. And lo and behold, the next thing you know, there's another challenge for a position group, not just a quarterback or a receiver, but the guys up front, the offensive linemen. They have a challenge, and it links with what they need to show on Saturday. We'll dive into all that after the break. This is Locked on Buckeyes. This episode is brought to you by Rocket Money. If you've ever opened your bank account and thought, where did all my money go? You're not alone. Keeping track of subscriptions, spending, and bills can get overwhelming fast. That's where Rocket Money comes in, helping you take control of your finances all in one place. It tracks all your subscriptions in one spot. It can help cancel the ones you don't need with just a few taps. It automatically categorizes your spending so you can actually see where your money is going. And you can set budgets, get alerts, and stay on top of upcoming bills. It just makes everything feel more organized and gives you a clear picture of your finances day to day. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. Let Rocket Money help you reach your financial goals faster. Join the fun at rocketmoney.com/locked on. Once again, that's rocketmoney.com/locked on. One more time, rocketmoney.com/locked on. Thanks for making Locked on Buckeyes your first listen of the day. And for being locked on the #1 sports podcast network. As always, Locked on Buckeyes is a part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. As we are getting closer and closer by the second to the start of the spring game on Saturday, I am thinking more and more about the offensive line. I'm looking towards Chris Henry to see what he's going to do on Saturday, and Tavien St. Clair, will he respond when pushed? But the offensive line conversation is a little bit interesting, and it's more detailed than normal. Normal, you would think you're going to roll in there with the starting offensive line. They're going to gain some traction and some momentum heading into the rest of the offseason. No, no, no. Two of the starters on the offensive line aren't available in Austin Servell and Philip Daniels. They both went and they both had minor procedures done this offseason, actually during spring ball, and they are in the rest of rehab process of the offseason to get ready for games in the fall. Well, that leaves guys like Ian Moore and Carter Lowe and Gabe Van Sickle to have opportunities to step up. Josh Padilla, who would be competing for a starting role if he were healthy, he isn't ready to go. Well, there are going to be a lot of guys that are trying to make a name for themselves, to cement themselves as true contenders to start. Well, to do so, to make sure you start, you must lean into the message the OC is preaching every day. That's Arthur Smith. No matter if you're optimistic about the hire or still pessimistic about the hire, you should like the identity that Arthur Smith is trying to play with and trying to infuse into the other players on the team on the offensive side of the ball. Here's what Arthur Smith had to say. Well, Tyler Bowen had to say about Arthur Smith at the end of practice yesterday. Quote, Arthur Smith is really establishing an identity for how we're going to run the ball, end quote. He also said the offensive line itself is a work in progress, but big picture, things are going to be fine. Things will continue to work into the summer. And so what happens now is not the end product. That's great. But I want to go back on something that was said initially, that Arthur Smith is really trying to establish an identity for how we're going to run the ball. Well, all I've heard all offseason, all spring is physical and aggressive. Play physical and play aggressive. One more time, play physical and play aggressive. I'm not a guy that's going to hear some words or hear a song and immediately think to get a tune, immediately think I'm going to sit down there at Texas Roadhouse and sing along with them. I am not that kind of guy. But when I'm not that kind of guy, I am the kind of guy that is going to be needing, that hopes the O-line plays physical and aggressive. You don't have to do everything correctly as an offense. There may be some hiccups along the way, but if the O-line is playing physical and aggressive, you're doing something right. Now, moving forward with this team in spring ball, it's almost over, but you got to be pretty pleased about where the team currently sits. Now, the only thing I don't like is that guys are getting hurt, but like I said before, my brother played football at Butler University. He first played at Kentucky Wesleyan, and then transferred after his first year, played the rest of his collegiate days there at Butler University. And when it comes to spring ball, my brother said the longer he's been there, the less likely he has to really enjoy it because the vets don't enjoy it. The vets on the offensive line, they don't have a choice. They got to go out there and compete. They have to prove that they have what it takes to play O-line at Ohio State. And when doing so, they're trying to prove it to themselves. I'll say it again. Got to play physical and aggressive. Play physical and aggressive. And as I say that, I could think, man, it's a tune here. I can tap my foot. I can snap a little bit. I can make a tune singing for you. I am not the guy that's going to sing. I don't even really sing in the shower. I'm not that kind of guy. I was singing in the car a little bit. I'm singing to my wife too every now and then, but that's something we just don't discuss here on the show. But you have to be someone with this unit, all jokes aside, you have to be someone to get back on track with this unit that is trying to find ways to make sure that all five guys that are on the field at one time are in unison, that they are a unified group, that they're playing fast and playing aggressive. Now, the beauty of this, you're now working with the starting offensive line, and there's a lot of time. Well, the beauty is not that part. The reality is you're not playing with all your starters on the offensive line. The beautiful part is this kickoff, the first game of the season is September 5th, and the shoe against Ball State. So there's a lot of time left. There's a ton of time to work through the kinks to make sure everybody is on the same page. While I am still a little pessimistic about the Arthur Smith hire, I am not discouraged. I am more encouraged with what people have said about Arthur Smith what he is preaching, what he is doing, the type of play and mentality that he has and he carries with him all the time. Carlos Lachlan said, hey, I'm from Memphis. He has a grit, as a grind, and I talk about Grind City Media that is all about the Memphis sports scene, and I love the name. It fits Memphis. Zach Randolph played there for the Grizzlies. Tony Allen played there for the Grizzlies, and while they got it out the mud, they also are guys that lean into physicality, I don't say dirty play, but desire to push the limits a little bit, to get under your opponent's skin, to make sure that you have the upper hand. The O-line, to me, it's not going to be a perfect finished product on Saturday. No. That's not going to be the case. But the O-line can provide hope. And you could see some people start to believe that things are going to be okay with this unit. I can't wait for this game on Saturday. My wife and I have some spring cleaning to do in the garage. Where we live has I don't know the official title of it, but they're allowing people to take junk, trash that normally you don't put out on trash day. You're able to take that trash to a big dump to get rid of it. And so we got that. We got a couple of youngins in the house we got to take care of. But then 12 o'clock, spring game starts. Baby, we locked in. Oh, this is a good time to mention something I haven't mentioned yet. We will be doing a live show on the YouTube, a Locked on Buckeyes YouTube page, immediately, as soon as the spring game concludes. So spring game is off. We're live on the air, instantly reacting with a rapid reaction style, Locked on Buckeye style show for you that we can discuss, so we can lean into what we liked, what we disliked, and have a good old time talking Ohio State football. As you think about the new faces in new places at Ohio State, we're going to close up with this thought. It would be very easy not just to be pessimistic, but to not believe at all. I will say this. Give them time. At the end of the day, I think you'll like what they're putting down. Thank you for making Locked on Buckeyes your first listen of the day, and for making Locked on the #1 sports podcast network. Come back tomorrow. The goal is for a second bonus or a bonus show on a Friday to have a special guest to talk about Andrea Yelovich. I hope I said his name correctly, the first name at least, on top of the dome, who transferred to Ohio State from Kentucky. We're going to get a breakdown of him, the player, his strengths, weaknesses, and what he could provide for the Buckeye basketball team next year. If you never miss an episode, the Everyday Club is built for you. Get Locked on Buckeyes ad-free, plus members-only Discord access, and more. Head to lockedonbuckeyes.supercast.com to join the club. For those of you on video, we send you to the first ever 24/7 national Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. On audio, make sure you make your second listen Locked On College Basketball. You can follow me on any social media platform at jstevens07. Send every email to jstevens317@gmail.com. This has been Locked On Buckeyes on a Thursday. We'll see you next time.